Shalom in the name of Yahoshua HaMashiach, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to show you an example of how Paul, Shaul of Tarsus, misuses the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, in order to support certain doctrines and certain teachings that he has. In one of the previous videos I've shown you how he does it in order to try and create an idea that there's a curse of Torah. And in every occasion where he quotes from the scriptures, not one of the scriptures backs up that teaching. And in this video I would like to show you how in Romans chapter 3 he does the same thing in order to try and teach that everybody is condemned by the Torah, and thus no one can be declared righteous by the Torah. So let me read the passage in Romans first of all. Romans chapter 3 from verse 9. He says that we previously accused both Yehudim and Greeks that they are all under sin, as it has been written. And so he starts off his quotes. There is none righteous, no, not one. There is no one who is understanding. There is no one who is seeking the mighty one. They all have turned aside, and they have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, no, not one. That's the first quote. That is a quote from Psalm 14. So let's have a look at Psalm 14 and we'll see there's a quote there. They've all done corruptly, no one who does good. They've all turned aside, they've become filthy, no one is doing good, etc. But then look at verse 4 and 5. Oh, look at verse 5 even. There they are in great fear, for Yahweh is with the generation of the righteous. So the psalmist is saying that there are righteous people in his day, and he is one of them, in fact. And he's saying that Yahweh is with the righteous ones. So the psalm isn't teaching that everybody is unrighteous. The psalm is not teaching that every single person who was living at that time was doing corruptly and whatnot. No, the psalmist is speaking about those who are wicked, and he's telling the truth about those who are wicked, but then he also confirms that there are those among them in that day, at that time, who are righteous, and Yahweh was with them. So that text does not prove Paul's doctrine. Going back to Romans, the next one is in verse 13. Their throat is an open tomb, with their tongues they have deceived. Okay, that is a quote from Psalm 5. Verse 9, you can see it there. Their throat is an open grave, they flatter with their tongue. But once again, the psalmist is not trying to say that everybody was like that. No, because he says, let all who take refuge in you, that's speaking to the Most High, rejoice. Let them ever shout for joy, because you shelter them. And let those who love your name exult in you. For you bless the righteous, O Yahweh. You surround him with favor as with a shield. So we see there are righteous people in the time of the psalmist. And he's encouraging the righteous to praise the Most High Yahweh. But he's also aware that there are many who are unrighteous at that time. But not everybody was unrighteous. That's not what the psalmist was saying. Paul is again misusing the text. Going back to Romans for the next quote that he takes out of context. This is in verse 13 again. He says, the poison of adders is under their lips. This is a quotation from another psalm, Psalm 140 and verse 3. See there, the poison of cobras is under their lips. But once again, the psalmist is not trying to say that everybody is like that, because look at verse 12 and 13. I have known that Yahweh maintains the cause of the afflicted, the right ruling of the poor. Only let the righteous give thanks to your name. Let the straight ones dwell in your presence. Once again, the psalmist confirms that yes, there are wicked people, but there are also righteous people, those who are seeking after Yahweh and those who are keeping his ways and walking in his ways. Going back to Romans again, you can go to verse 14 now. Whose mouth is filled with cursing and bitterness. This is another psalm. This is Psalm chapter 10. Verse 7, his mouth is filled with cursing and deceit and oppression. But, surprise, surprise, if we look at verse 12, Arise, O Yahweh, Almighty One, lift up your hand. Do not forget the lowly ones, or the humble ones. If you look at, or do not forget the afflicted. And then verse 17 and 18. Yahweh, you have heard the desire of the lowly ones. You prepare their heart, and you incline your ear to defend the fatherless and the downtrodden, so that man who is of the earth no longer oppresses. Once again, you see that the psalmist understands that there are those who Yahweh is with, and those who Yahweh, incline. He says that he prepares their heart, he shapes their heart, he inclines their heart, and he inclines his ear to their prayers. Once again, there is no idea that every single person was unrighteous. This is misuse of scripture. Going back to Romans again, and two more quotes. Verse 15 to 17, Paul quotes, their feet are swift to shed blood, ruin and wretchedness are in their ways, and the way of peace they have not known. This is from from Isaiah this time, Isaiah chapter 59, and there you see their feet run to evil, shedding. Now in the Hebrew it says they hurry to shed innocent blood. So obviously there are some people who were not wicked and they were innocent, but as I understand, the Septuagint doesn't have innocent blood there, so I'll let Paul off on that one. But then, are we going to say that that Yeshayah, Isaiah, was really trying to say that everybody in that age was wicked? No, because if we go to, for example, chapter 57, I believe, the point is, Yeshayah says, look, the righteous one has perished and no one takes it to heart, and kind men are taken away, while no one understands that the righteous one is taken away from the presence of evil. He enters into peace. Those who walk in integrity rest on their beds. Yeshayah is saying that they were righteous people, but they're dying away, because Yahweh is taking them away from the carnage which is going to come upon the children of Israel in that time, and that was going to be the Babylonian invasion. Likewise, in chapter 51, it reads, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, seeking Yahweh. Look to the rock from you were hewn from, and to the hole of the pit from you were dug from. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarah who bore you, for he was alone when I called him, and I blessed him and increased him. So Yahweh is speaking to those who are pursuing righteousness and encouraging them. So we can't use Isaiah chapter 59 and a couple of verses there to try and prove that everyone was unrighteous, because Isaiah himself makes it plain that not everybody in his day was unrighteous. There were those who were pursuing after righteousness and seeking Yahweh and were righteous. And finally, the last quote is from Romans chapter 3 verse 18. There is no fear of the mighty one before their eyes. This is from Psalm 36 verse 1. The fear of the mighty one is not before his eyes. But lo and behold, verse 10 says, draw out your kindness to those who know you, and your righteousness to the upright in heart. Once again, the psalmist makes it clear that there were those who were righteous and upright in heart in that day, at that time. Now the thing is, if somebody did this kind of thing today in your average Bible study, let's say, they would get told off. People would say, look, you're taking scriptures out of context and you're weaving them together in order to prove something that those scriptures do not prove. But for some reason, it was okay for Paul to do this. But I'm afraid, as far as I'm concerned, no, it's never okay for somebody to take scripture out of context in order to build a doctrine, especially a doctrine so dangerous and so unbiblical, as the doctrine which says that no one can be declared right and no one can get life through the commandments of the Most High Yahweh. We've seen that this teaching of Paul's contradicts the teachings of the prophets. It contradicts Yehoshua, and this, he has no scriptural basis to teach this, and this is why he resorted to this kind of, cherry picking of scriptures in order to try and prove it. But basically, I hope you've seen in this video that there is no scriptural foundation for his teaching that no one, can be declared right through the works of the Torah.